Hey everybody, today I'm going to be putting together a welding table that I got for Christmas. This is a 3 by 4 foot Certiflat welding table. It came from weldtables.com, and some of the highlights of the table is that they use this, they call it tab and slot. So here's a tab. And in the table, there's different slots that these tabs fit into. And the nice thing about this table is that even though the plate is only 3/16 inch steel, these ribs are all laser cut. Actually, everything is laser cut. So these ribs, once you put on and once you clamp them and weld it all up, everything is guaranteed to be true within, I think, 15 thousandths of an inch. So it has these 5/8 inch holes that are 2 inches on center. What else? What are some other highlights? It weighs, this table here without the legs is about 130 pounds, so it's really not that heavy from a welding table perspective. Let's see, what else? It comes with square tubes for the legs, and that's all laser cut, and has casters. And I think I paid somewhere around $450 with shipping, and it shipped in 2 UPS boxes, so that was nice. I didn't have to have it come freight or anything like that. So to put it together, we need a few things. So we need some 4-inch clamps or larger. I got these from Harbor Freight for $3.99. I also made these, so I'm going to use these clamps on the exterior all the way around. I needed 14 of them, and then I made some clamps for the interior, and essentially all they are is some flat bar that I drilled. I have some threaded rod, and then what I'm going to do is put it from the underside, put one on top, clamp them down, and that'll hold the middle piece, the middle ribs in. So we're going to start by taking these ribs, and I already went through and I checked to make sure that there was no, debris, no slag or anything like that from the cutting process. Everything is nice and clean, but you probably still want to check. So I'm going to take the ribs and I'm going to insert them into their appropriate slots. So far, everything is fitting in perfectly. I don't need any kind of hammer or anything like that. So now that I have these in, I'm going to put these cross pieces on. And what's really nice is that there's these slots, and they fit right over, and everything is super tight. There is some laser etching of the, I'm assuming this is a part number, because this piece says 3648-S, and these pieces say 3648-L. So it probably means long and short piece maybe. But what I'm doing is I'm keeping all of the laser etching in the same direction. I don't think it really means anything other than a part number, but I'm going to keep it all orientated the same way. Okay, so this is how the table came when it shipped. It was basically put together like this. And it was basically wrapped in cardboard. When it came, the cardboard was a little bit mangled. Not too bad, but You know, if I were a UPS guy carrying a 130-pound piece of steel box, you know, it'd probably get pretty beat up. So the next step, what we're going to do is start to clamp. So I'm going to start by clamping the middle pieces here, and then I'll do the exterior. I can already see a little bit where the table sags right here. There's a little bit of a gap. So we need to pull that all up nice and tight. From watching the Weld Tables video that they have online, they said you should shine a flashlight behind, and you really shouldn't be able to see any light come through. So I'm anxious to see that happen. So I'm going to start clamping this together. So again, this is just threaded rod that I had, and I had the nuts laying around. I just quickly drilled the holes, and I actually used a step bit on the drill press, which kind of makes the hole, I made the holes a little bit bigger than they needed to be, and that gave me a little bit of play so that I didn't have to, you know, precisely drill the holes. I had a little bit of play. So I could already see the steel coming up as I tightened that. So, and it looks super tight. It's amazing how straight these cuts are. I guess if it's on a CNC machine, it kind of makes sense. Okay, so now I have all of the center ribs clamped down. Everything is nice and tight. I use threaded rod because I had it laying around, so I just cut it on the bandsaw. But you could use bolts if you had them, or if you had any kind of clamp that could fit into these holes that you could use to clamp, you could do that too. I actually have a pair of, or a set of, 2 sets of Strong Hand Tools clamps coming any day now. And those actually bolt in here into the holes, and they could clamp them down. But I went this way instead because I was anxious to put the table together. I did put a flat bar on the bottom because I didn't want the top of the surface, the underside of the table surface being marred or anything like that. So that's why I did that. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and take my C-clamps, and I'm going to clamp each intersection here all the way around the table. So there's 6 on the middle of the table, and then there's 14 on the exterior of the table, the outside of the table, and that's what I'm going to use the C-clamps for. So it's pretty simple. I'm just going to line them up nice and square and clamp them down. And as I'm doing this, I'm watching and I'm seeing the edges, the tabletop come up with flush with the edge of the ribs. So my cable. Okay, so now we have everything clamped up. Everything's nice and tight. I can see, looks like all of the edges are tight. What I'm going to do next is get a straight edge, and I'm going to check to see if everything is nice and straight. So, okay, so now I have a straight edge. This is the best thing that I have. It's just the long piece from a T-square. So what I'm going to do is run it across the ribs, and everything looks square this way. Let's try here. Yeah, I mean, everything looks spot on. This is pretty cool. Not seeing any gaps at all. Maybe a little one here. Let me get my phone and see if there's any light that shines through. I'm going to take my flashlight on my phone. I mean, there's no light coming through, except the little notches where they have the tabs. There's little dips for the tab for you to weld. Just tighten these. Okay, so everything looks super square and tight. So the next thing what we're going to do is weld the ribs together. And the way that the manufacturer recommends you do that is you put one weld about 3/4 of an inch long where the ribs intersect. So basically where the two pieces meet, put a 3/4 inch weld right between them to tie them together. We're not going to weld the ribs to the table surface yet. You do that from the underside. We're actually going to flip it over and do it. And there's a special technique for doing that. So what we're going to do is we're going to start at one corner, and we're only going to put one bead on each joint. So we're going to start at one corner. So I'll start over here, and I'm going to put one over there. Then I'll put one here, then there, and then we'll do the rest. And you do it in an alternating pattern. So it's my understanding that by welding like that, the material is just going to want to pull this way rather than bow up. So you're still going to have a really flat surface. And then once I'm done welding all of these intersections, again, putting one bead 3/4 of an inch long at each intersection. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to weld each tab and slot together, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's get started with the welding. Okay, so I've welded every joint. I started here, went there, then there, and then there. Did a crisscross pattern, and now I'm going to go grab my wife, and we're going to flip this over and weld the tabletop to the ribs underneath. Okay, so now we have the table flipped over, and you can see all of the tabs and slots here. Well, the tabs are in the slots, and what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're just going to tack each one, okay? And again, we'll do like an alternating pattern. And then once we're tacked, we're going to go and just put a bead in here, and we're just going to run it sideways so that we touch each side of the table. We're going to try not to fill it up so that we don't have to go and grind. So we're just going to fill it in and hope for the best. So let's try that now. Okay, so now we have everything tacked. We put a tack in each slot. I really tried to make sure that the tack didn't rise above the surface, the table surface. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go and fill in along each slot. Again, concentrating on filling it in, but not rising above the table surface. If we do that, we're going to have to go and grind that down, and I really want to try to keep the table as true and flat as possible. So okay, so now I have filled in all of the slots. I shouldn't say filled in, but I've welded them, making sure not to come up above the table surface. And for the most part, there's a little bit of spatter, but for the most part, there's one that might have to be just be touched up. But I think I stayed under the table surface, which is good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a wire wheel and I'm just going to dress the welds and then come back and check. This one looks like it might be just a little bit of spatter on the edge. So I'm going to see if the wire wheel, just a light touch of it, will fix that up. Hopefully it does. Otherwise I'll just lightly touch it with a, I'm not sure what I'm going to use, some sort of grinding wheel. But I'm going to try to keep it as flat as possible so I don't put any gouges in. So then we're ready to flip it over and put the legs on and we're done. I'm excited. So I just got done hitting each weld with a wire wheel. For the most part, all the welds look good. This weld over here that I had problems with opened up, or cleaned up I should say. There's one or two welds that I might need to just lightly hit. There's just a tiny bit protruding from the top of the surface, but I'm not really worried about it. It's not a big deal. So now what I'm going to do is take the clamps off, get my wife, and we'll flip it back over, and then we're gonna assemble the legs. So we're on the home stretch. We have the table flipped back over. I checked it for flatness, trueness, whatever you want to call it, and it's pretty good. I'm not sure if the table is maybe just a tad bit warped or if it's my straight edge. I'm guessing it's my straight edge because it's really just a T-square. And I went back and I checked under all the seams with a light, and they're like dead on. There's no light coming through. And this is all laser cut, so I'm guessing it's my straight edge, but it's flat enough for what I'm going to be doing. The next thing I'm going to do is put the legs on. And I went ahead and did a little bit of work on the legs, but here's how they work. They have these slots cut in them. There's slots here and here. And you basically take the leg, you put it on, you tap it in. It's basically sliding on itself right now. And then you have these tabs right here that, actually this one goes here, and it slides in, and then you weld this together. The way you attach the casters is they give you these little brackets, these little plates that are cut out, and then they give you a nut, and you just tack the nut on so that as you're tightening the caster on, it doesn't spin. And the way I did it is I took the caster and I put the plate on, and then I put the nut on top. Then I put my ground on like this, and I just tacked and then rotated and tacked. So it's pretty simple. These the nuts seem to be like have some sort of plating on them. I don't know if it's chrome or zinc or whatever. I do know some of that stuff can be pretty toxic, so I opened up the door all the way and just did a tack and then stood back, let the air clear, just to make sure I don't want to be inhaling any toxic fumes or anything. So once you have it, the nut tacked on, you take the nut, or the plate with the nut, put it on here, get it in snug, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go and put some tacks around it just to hold the plate on. There's my mic cord. Okay, so it's that easy. My mic cord here is getting in the way. So now what I'm going to do is take the legs and start to put them on. Obviously you have these little notches, so you need to have one orientated this way and this way. I'm going to do that. I'm not going to tack them all in yet, or tap them all in yet. Okay, so now that I have all the pieces tied together, this one looks like it's kind of low, so I'm going to go start on this end and just start tapping it down. This one's a little bit tighter than the rest, so we're almost in. That one's in. That one's in. That one's in. Maybe one more over here. Okay, they're all in. Make sure this one looks like it bumped out of it. But there we go. Okay. So now what I think I'm going to do is go ahead and tack the legs in. Then I'm going to tack these cross pieces in. And then I'm going to come back and weld it. So that's what's next. I think what I'm going to do is when I weld it is I'm going to weld it to these cross pieces rather than the table. That way I don't distort the table surface. All right, so I'm done. I have the casters on, everything's welded up tight. Next step is to flip it over. I'm thinking one thing I'm going to do to this is I'm probably going to get some more tubing and put some bracing across, and then I'm going to put some sort of, I don't know, some sheet metal here to make a shelf. It's kind of wasted space, so I might as well do that. So that's it. One thing I do want to note, I forgot to mention in the beginning, is that I'm using my Lincoln PowerMig 210 MP. I have it set at 19 volts, 322 inches a minute, and I'm using 030 wire. Basically what I did is in the PowerMig, you go in and you pick your metal thickness, so I chose 3/16, and it came up at about, I don't know, I think it was like 330, which seemed to be, that was the wire speed, seemed to be a little bit fast, so I turned it down just a little bit. But other than that, it worked great. I did use the tack mode, so I set it for about 1 1/4 seconds for the tacks, so that worked well. So let's get this flipped over. Okay, here's the finished product. I'm very pleased with the results. I'm not sure if I'm going to paint the legs or not. I probably will. The table I'll probably just wind up hitting with a Scotch-Brite pad just to clean it up a little bit. It rolls very easily. The casters seem pretty decent. There's brakes on every caster, so that's nice. I didn't realize it would be this high, but I actually like it. I always, when I'm welding, I'm always leaning over, so this will be nice to be able to, you know, if you're welding, you know, a big item, you know, to be up high, to be like this, keep your back straight so you don't have back pain after a day of welding. So yeah, I'm happy. I'll post links in the description. As always, please leave comments. Positive comments are always appreciated. Be sure to like the video and subscribe if you like what I do. Basically, my channel is all about things that I like: welding, drones, extreme Christmas lights, things like that. So if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. I would appreciate it. Okay, thanks, and see you next week.